All right, and we are live. What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining. This is the first ever YangGang Census Town Hall, is kind of the name I threw together. With us today, we have Seth Cohen of the OG Humanity Forward. How's it going, Seth?
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yes, and we also have Noah with Democracy.ai. Noah, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for, the software is awesome. I would love to see more places and campaigns using it moving forward. So again, I'm a huge fan. So everybody on the stream, I'm going to post a link for the Democracy.ai. It's hard to call it just a census. It's hard to define exactly what it is because it's so it's awesome what it is. It's AI powered. So I'm going to post a link in the chat. There's also a link in the description for Democracy.ai. So you can access it there. If you are not able to go through the link, you can also access it directly through census.fwdu.org. That short link will direct you to the actual census. So you can go there if you're able to do it on a different device. There are some onboarding questions. I think there's 5 or 6 questions to answer just to get set up in it. So please go there. Again, I posted the link in the comments, so go there and please set that up. Also, if you can share this, because the software works better the more people we have on. So please share this wherever you can, and we'll see how many people we can get on. Again, I know there's a lot going on with the protests and COVID and everything. So please share this wherever possible. So while everybody is doing that, Noah, do you want to tell us a little bit about the program?
Sure, thanks. So big picture, the goal, we live in a time where there's lots of ways for one person to talk or yell or all caps shout at many people, from Twitter and the radio to news. But the question that we're trying to answer is what happens when a group of people can talk back to an individual as one and have a conversation and understand their collective thoughts. So today we're gonna ask some questions that we talked about. We can even ask new questions that we haven't talked about. And what's gonna happen is people are gonna have an opportunity to write their answer and then pick between other answers. And within 2 minutes, we have an algorithm that does some neat synthetic voting, and we'll understand how people might feel about a whole matrix of opinions that we share. So we've done a few of these. It's really wonderful to hear how people see things. And for people watching, you'll see a percentage next to like your view, what you write down, and that's the percentage of people that are participating that would likely agree with your statement, which is also really cool. Speak truthfully and be astonished or dismayed at how many people share your views. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm really happy to be sharing it, to get such an awesome group that's inspired me and changed some of my views to kind of figure out what their next steps are. I'm so excited, and I hope it's really useful.
Awesome. Again,
Noah, just along those lines, also, as far as being that all of your answers are confidential.
Oh yeah, so we'll never know who said what, right? Like that's actually, the system was built to try to find truth, and people speak truthfully when they feel like their answers are confidential and can't be used against them. And so by design, the system will never know what you wrote, like your login or anything like that. And then what I also want to add is the other part of being confidential on an individual level is being transparent on a community level. So my understanding is, one way or another, we're going to share this data. If anybody has a specific request for data, like we would love to like make sure that people feel heard and understood and have access to anything they need to make decisions, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So please, if you have not yet, you can click on the link. It is in the description. It is also, I will post it to the group chat again. But again, the more people we have, the better to get the data back. So please share this where you can. We're going to get as many people to access this as possible. Let me get the link. I'll post it back in the chat again. It is in the description. And if you are on a device that you can't see the description for some reason, you can also access it at census.fwdu.org. Again, census is kind of a weak word for exactly what this is, but it's pretty sweet. So there are 5 or 6 initial questions that the people participating need to go through in the very beginning, just to kind of identify where you are, what a lot of your thoughts were in the 2020 election, just a lot of demographic stuff. Nell, thank you for blasting the link everywhere.
Thanks, Nell. Hi, Karen. Hi, Izzy Land. Hi, Revolutionary Thinking is a name. That is wonderful. Jeremiah, James, Kimberly. It's kind of fun. I can see all the people that are on here. And if you have any questions, let us know. That's really cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. So that's awesome. So let me know, Noah, when you want me to share your screen. So we're actually going to be, there are questions going through this. So the initial questions, please answer those because a lot of the questions down the line are also generated based on the answers to some of the initial questions, if that makes sense. So please answer the initial questions, go in there, participate in that. Karen is waiting for it to load. So I imagine a lot of people are waiting it to load and going through the initial questions. So if
you want to share my screen, I can scroll through it so that people who are watching can have an understanding of who's participating so far. I mean, I'll just scroll down. These percentages are what percentage of people answered, so everybody understood. 41% Democrats. These numbers will change. 54% independents. Not listed, which is interesting. If it's not listed and you can hear us, like perhaps we should add a new party next time. So feel free to put out what the not listed party is if you want. Supporters, a little bit of staff, some curious people, and some volunteers. A cool age range. Everybody's comfortable sharing their age range. That's nice. All right. People of, we got a little bit of everybody represented. Again, with the not listed, we put that in there, but please feel free to, I think, share with us what we should put down next time so that people feel like they want to share it or comfortable sharing it. I'll run through state.
Noah?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. TJ in the comments is saying that his screen is telling him, welcome, we'll get started at the scheduled time. Is he in the right place?
Yep.
He is. He should probably refresh. In fact, just like a general rule, if there's an issue, the first step is always going to be to refresh using the same link. If you still have the problem,
so mine says the same thing. So I went through the initial questions, and once I was done with the initial questions, it says please hold tight. So all it is it's waiting for us to load up the next question, right?
Yep. Okay. Yes. If you've already answered the questions and you're getting the screen to please hold tight for a minute, all that's happening is we haven't fired off our next question. So that screen will change in a few minutes whenever you guys say we should start. Looks like people are still coming in now.
Yeah, it looks like we have 52. We have people still going in. Again, if you haven't yet, please click on the link. It is in the description. Additionally, I can repost it again. There'll be, I think, 5 or 6 initial questions that'll just ask your age range, your political party preference, and so on, just to get it a better. Let me see.
I'm going to send out the first, not questions, but the first 2 comments. So everybody who's watching, you should now see 2 comments. One is a note about starting, and the next one is instructions. So if you don't see 2 comments on your screen about how to participate, refresh, and if you still don't see them, let us know.
Yep, they came up on mine, so they're showing up on mine.
Just so everyone's clear, especially anyone that joined a little late, this link that we're trying to get you to sign up to is what will make this interactive and allow you to participate, so that this is actually a conversation and not just us all talking at you. So please sign up there.
Yes, and please, if you haven't yet, share the video so we can get more people in here. The more the better. And let me, so the link is in the description, and I will repost it again in the chat just so everybody has it.
What is the largest state represented here? What do we have? A lot of California. All right. Some Georgia. Some Washington. 10% Washington. And a little New Mexico. Little New York.
Okay, Ronald said he got the comments showing up on his. Good. Awesome. Got the 2 responses. I can already see how the AI is learning works. Noah and your team, awesome idea.
I missed who that was, but thank you, and really excited to see how this is helpful. TJ, awesome. Hi, TJ. We met before. That's great, and I am only one part of a big team that makes this possible. And so I will tell everyone that you're enjoying yourself so far, TJ.
If anyone wants to know more just about this platform, it's Democracy.ai, and they also have a Facebook page that has a bunch of videos and other stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, please do.
Yeah, that's great. And I see TJ here is saying, love the idea of typing open-ended answers and then agree, disagree. Awesome. And to just build that, guys, the more persuasive your arguments are, fight to win when we ask questions. Type whatever you think will be most persuasive for the most people, and we find that that's the best way to uncover like the group truth. And one of the reasons, I'll just say for myself, that I really like this is it's pretty awesome when I think I have a great idea that I agree with, and then someone else has a better idea. I was like, I really enjoy when I'm like, I nailed it, definitely the best answer, and then I'm like, wow,
there's a better
best answer. All right.
Well, and that points to a big thing with the whole purpose of this, right? Is because I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of conversations with the YangGang over the last couple months, just like what direction are we going? What are we, what's the game plan, everything. So I don't have all the answers at all. Like I don't pretend I do at all. So we really wanted to get everybody together and get some answers going, because YangGang is such a smart group, especially that, we want to get everybody's input. So Nell is saying this is awesome. Heidi asked, Noah, you're with the software company?
Yes, I am. So it's so the company software we're using, I actually I've known the founders since 2016. They came up with the audacious goal that if the more understanding we create between any groups of people, the more likely a peaceful and positive outcome. There is some science behind that, and that was one part of it. And the other part of it is for people just joining, is that we've kind of mastered the art of one person talking to many, from a megaphone and a telephone to, we now know if you're the right person, you can tweet something out and like almost 1/6 of the world will know what you said a moment later. But what we haven't done yet is, or what we're working on here, is trying to see how all of us can talk back to an individual, or understand what the group is saying. Not from like op-ed pieces, but actually from having a conversation. So you can imagine this is conversation at scale, and and this is my own personal view, is I'm excited for the future of technology that will bring people together, because I think that we've used a lot of these tools to do a lot of things, but like the world is having a needed perhaps moment of crisis right now, and I think there are some technological things that can help us with that, and I'm hoping this is one of them.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm excited to show everyone this. So what do you think? Do you think we're 15 minutes and you want to get to the first question?
Absolutely. And I'm just looking really quickly. It looks like everybody's hasn't posted the next set of questions. Cool. So let's start this off. I'm going to fire off the first question. Well, I'm going to fire off the first statement, and the first question is going to be a poll. So you'll have about 30 seconds right now to choose a poll, and on my screen you can see the answers coming in after you select a poll. This is the least interesting part of it.
Yeah, so the first question, who do you currently plan on voting for in the general election? And if you're in the survey, it'll give you the answers. So Biden, Trump, Libertarian, Green, not listed, not voting, can't vote. So we'll just select the answer, and then we'll start getting some data in.
Awesome. Great. Cool. You guys ready? Everybody ready for the first question? Sending it. Sound good, Seth?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, next question. If you build your own ticket for 2020, who would you choose for president and who would you choose for VP? So you can actually type in your answers for this question. Again, all of this will be made available afterwards. The data we will make available.
This is fun. People can still join too if you have other friends that you want to have participate. JP, if it throws you out, refresh and try again. Sorry about that. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to tell them that based on other people's answers too, it'll ask you agree, disagree with some of the other answers to see what some of the most popular answers are for the group, right?
Yeah, it uses, we're using matrix completion is what it's called. So we're within 2 minutes, the algorithm is, which is always changing, the algorithm is comparing how people who agreed with you voted, how people with you didn't agree, doing a bunch of math to predict with confidence how you might answer answers that you haven't answered yet based on the answers you did answer and how other people answered them. So it's really
awesome.
Cool. What's the time limit? Washington Heights was asking. The time limit on most of these polls is 30 seconds. The time limit, sorry about that, guys. The time limit on most of these polls is 30 seconds. The time limit for the open-ended right now is 2 minutes, just so you know.
I think we just timed out.
We just timed out. So we can look and see about 80% of people who participated, their ideal ticket would be Yang and Gabbard, with Yang and, I don't know, for VP coming in a close second. Do you want to see what the least popular one is, guys?
Sure.
There you go. Sorry, Biden, Whitmer not doing well tonight, but neither is Bloomberg Yang, but that's okay. All right, what do you say, James? Next one?
Yeah, I was just looking through the answers. So top one, Yang and Gabbard. Second one, Andrew Yang. And I don't know, for VP, Yang/don't care / Yang Tulsi. Yeah, it looks like Yang Tulsi for sure. Be there. But yeah, I'm ready for the next one.
Cool. There's your next one coming up.
Okay, next one, more of an open-ended question. Where are you at emotionally with Andrew Yang? Yeah, the first time I saw this, I was blown away how it will follow up with, once you answer it, follow up with other people's answers and see how you gauge other people's answers. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we're at a minute now, so you can already see. I mean, this is going to be great. I am excited. I can already see there's answers here at both ends of the spectrum, which is love and trust him, and he sold out. And it's going to be so interesting to see what where it looks like we have about 55 people right now. It'll be really interesting to see who ends up where.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the answers in this. Let me see. Especially the open-ended questions, right? When we were looking at the questions, like the open-ended ones are very interesting to get the answers back because people can write whatever they want, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's one of my favorite things is I've learned new associations, new ways of seeing. I enjoy learning from the crowd.
All right, we just timed out for that one.
Great. Really quickly, I just did a little segmentation. If you want to talk through that, or we can just fire off the next question.
No, I think let's look at some data here.
So remember, these percentages are the percentages of agreeing. With percentages this high, that's almost everyone. So what I would feel comfortable saying with this sample is if everybody here, and this makes sense, Democrats, independents, all think he's really sincere, right? If I scroll down and what I'm looking for is where if things fall apart at all by party, right? So here, whatever this is, still love him despite some missteps. So what I would say here is that independents are more likely than self-identified Democrats to feel that way. And we can keep working through this data. It's interesting to scroll down and see these least popular. So he sold out. While most people don't agree, independents are more likely to agree with than Democrats are. We could change this. I don't think we have a lot. We only have one Republican with us. Thank you for joining us. So that data isn't going to be very persuasive. Yeah.
He sold out as the last place. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. We can rearrange this in this way as well. And see, these are the answers that are negative. Yeah. We have no libertarian, no green. Yeah. So I would say should we keep going?
Yep.
Great. All right. Here's one other thing. I know some people had NLP questions. This is just pulling out words, and so we're seeing hopeful, some commonalities, hopeful, trust and love, which is nice. Can't have too much. I'm gonna fire off the next question. Here we go.
Awesome. So the next question, where are you at emotionally with COVID? So some questions in here are just feeling questions, see where people are at emotionally, just in general. Not just specifically with Andrew Yang, just with the current situation in general. And this one is about how are you emotionally with COVID? I want to see these answers too, because COVID's kind of up in the air right now. I'm seeing things of a second wave. Should be some interesting answers for this one.
Yep. And TJ, I see your pretty thoughtful comment about the algorithm here. TJ has commented that he'd like to have another option when he can only agree or disagree. People far smarter than I are doing some statistical analysis and forcing you to make that choice. So I hear you. Neutral statements are unhelpful in general for quickly deciding sentiment. So I think that the research team has probably tested it and probably will again. But right now is thinking that is not the ideal solution, but I know you'd like it. I'd like it too.
All right, 20 more seconds on this question. Again, this question we're working on is, where are you at emotionally with COVID? Another 10 seconds on this question.
Michael is comment the inherent bias of the group, and I think that we'll look at this data in a second. But something to point out is this is not a representative sample, right? So in polling, the group of people that you question are really important to the answers that you'll get. 100% of all presidential polling consists of people who are willing to answer presidential polls, which is in and of itself its own bias. And we have that obviously here. There's a strong sentiment towards Yang, towards knowing who Yang is. So that's right on. And you're welcome, PJ. Here, let's take a quick look. James, if you want to talk us through this, these answers are not as high in agreement.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see, because the opinions on COVID are kind of all over the place, right? I mean, taking it seriously, diligently quarantine, anxious, awaiting the second wave of virus, still skeptical. Let me see. Okay, I'm looking at the screen. It's a little delayed on the string. Hopeful, mostly stressed at times. I mean, taking it seriously, anxious. Doesn't bother me at all. It's interesting. I love the self-awareness that it's coming from the situation. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, can you talk through the different segments?
Yeah, one is JP. I hope we don't lose you. If you're really having problems with the timer, refresh. And if you do have to go, send a note and I will send it to our engineers and literally file a bug report. So sorry that you're having a little trouble there with the timer. We'll work to fix it. Cool. I'm going to just highlight here the differences. One thing I see really quickly is, so it doesn't bother me at all. Feeling totally fine with it and even grateful that it's pushed so many to introspection. So independents are feeling this. Democrats are not. That's a huge difference, right? We have a really different view of this. So something like, to put this into action, something to be aware of if you're an independent voter trying to persuade a Democratic voter, you may want to really speak to the challenges they might face with COVID. On the flip side, if you're a Democrat and you wanted to persuade an independent voter around certain ideas, you may really, really want to try to highlight that there are potentially some positives or that there's opportunities, potentially positive opportunities with these challenging times. Another big difference is not overly concerned personally, but watching the situation as far as unemployment benefits being ideally extended. So again, there's just a difference between how independents and Democrats are feeling overall as a group. 61%, so that's more than half. Let's find out what's least popular really quickly with Democrats. Wow, this is just so YangGang. Something I can tell you is there's a big difference in views of COVID between independents and Democrats. You all don't see the same on those issues, and you should, if you wanted to take action around it, you should look closely at this data so that you can get an alignment.
Can we go ahead and ask a follow-up here? Like I have, off the top of my head, I don't even really understand why an independent and a Democrat would be seeing this different. Can we ask the crowd?
Yep. Why do you think independent? Sorry, guys, I'm not a speller here, but we got spell check enabled, so
it's all good.
Why do you think independent voters and Democratic voters have such different views about COVID? Or is that to like have, I'm going to take out the word such because that's not really fair, have different views about COVID. I'm going to hit send and then I'll go back to this analyze screen really quickly. So we can, if you're listening, we can call out some of those differences. Over it already, 62% of Democrats, 27% of independents are saying that. minor impact, but angry and frustrated. Half of independents would agree with that statement. 38% of Democrats would agree with that statement. Here's an interesting one. I'm not that unhappy because my life was heading in a direction I didn't really like before COVID. But as an introvert, COVID let others see the world the way I did. 69% agreement amongst independent voters, 38% agreement among Democratic voters. I feel isolated and sad, but I'm willing to do what is necessary to help others. 69%, 38%. Really interesting.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
You know,
all right, there's 48 more seconds on the timer for the follow-up question. Again, the follow-up question, why do you think independent voters and Democratic voters have different views about COVID? Because, I mean, like you said, looking at the data, the views based on Democrat or political party are pretty different, which is very interesting. I didn't expect that.
Some of these answers are fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what, so thank you everybody for sharing too. I think especially if this has been a difficult time, articulating that in a 2-minute window can be difficult. So that's something to be really grateful for.
All right, and the timer is up for that follow-up question.
Yeah, so take a look at your screen here.
All right, so Noah, can you talk us through some of these answers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's take a look at the most popular answer. I think Democrats are just the other end of the spectrum as Republicans. Extremes are not good. That's where the crappy views come in. I actually don't know exactly what that means. So if you wrote that and want to explain that, send a chat and we'll. I see Kimberly said that one frustrated me. So that's, no, it's hard. Let's see. Probably because they have been affected in different ways. So that's if you want to win the answer, competition, that is a true statement, right? So that is independents are less susceptible to the politicization of every issue, more skeptical of mainstream media and the left-right supposed divide. So many independents agree with that, 3/4 almost, but more than half of Democrats would agree with that. So that was the top answer. With that said, let's look at what the Democrats' top answer is. That's actually the Democratic top answer. So when we see 72%, 67%, that means that we don't necessarily have a unified Democratic group here. No idea. So let's look at no idea. There you go. Here's an interesting one really quickly is Democrats aren't sure why that is, and independents are more sure why it is. So independents might have had to do their own footwork to find ideas rather than looking to leadership. So that let's highlight that. Let's talk about something positive here, which is that 62, 67%, 69%. I think that's a really interesting answer, is what I would say. Cool. And Cindy, I see you weren't finished. Your text disappeared. I'm screenshotting these just so everybody knows, and I am filing bug reports for you. So you will be heard by those that can make a difference, the engineers. So I'm not sure why that's happening. If it keeps happening, let me know. But yeah, I would say, do you guys see anything else you want to call out, James, Seth?
No, I mean, I think that's fascinating. We'll dig into these numbers, afterwards as well, and then distribute them so everyone will get a chance to really dig into this stuff. I think it's fascinating.
All right, I'm gonna fire off this next question.
Do it.
All right, next open-ended, just feeling question. Where are you at emotionally with Black Lives Matter? And this is just not the, I don't think we're meaning the organization itself, just pretty much what's going on with all the protests and everything going on right now. Is there any way to adjust the answer time for these? Some people are saying there's a delay between the stream and the. Now the stream must be delayed. The questions are probably in real time.
I'd say give us 20 more seconds to answer. All right, let me see what I can do. Does the general consensus seem to be 20 or 30 more seconds is going to make a difference?
Yeah, someone else said another 30 seconds. So
cool. Let's do the next 3 questions at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and then we can even take a poll. Haha.
Awesome. No, the software's awesome, especially you can do that in real time, and also the follow-ups. It's pretty crazy. I didn't even know this was a thing before, so.
Maple rhubarb, which is a delicious combination, says, think fast, type fast, live fast, is how this works.
It's true. All right, so the timer is up for that one.
Some surprising answers here from the Humanity First group.
Yeah, you want to call out anything here?
It's really small on my screen, but as I was going through, some of the answers didn't exactly seem to line up with the values that Andrew seems to be pushing.
So ACAB, which stands for all cops are bastards. That's just looking at negative sentiment here. I mean, there are a couple of ways to look at that. 1/4 to 1/3 of people agree with that, which is something to be aware of. On the fence, you got a bunch of almost similar proportions agree with that. Let's look at here, this right here, the independent Democrat seems less important than it's a bunch of rabble rousing. Police brutality affects all races, and probably ran out of time, but that's agreed to by 50% of people. I'm just going to keep talking here. Let's sort by most agreed, see what we can all. So 84% agreement on I feel their pain. It's shitty to live in fear all the time, and it's especially shitty when there's no accountability from those who are creating this situation. 82% also agree with it's been a long time coming, glad to see progress. 82%, enough is enough. We're at a critical mass, 80%. Sadness, 80%. So there's a lot of different.
Just out of curiosity, because you've looked at a lot more numbers and polls than I have, when we have 50% people who seem to be indicating they would agree with a statement that says that, maybe Black Lives Matter, that this is overblown. I don't want to use the wrong words here, but 50% are lukewarm on what's happening. But then in other sentiments, we have 80% expressing positive sentiments about Black Lives Matter. How do we justify those two numbers?
So I think I don't know. Like specifically, I've highlighted one that seems to be at that cusp, which is it's a bunch of rabble rousing. Police brutality affects all races, and I think you could view this in a lot of different ways. It's a bunch of rabble rousing could be viewed as a negative sentiment towards the police or towards the protesters, and police brutality affects all races could be seen as an all lives matter, anti-Black matter statement, or a libertarian statement, where there's a lot of different ways to unpack that. So I think from my experience, it is hard in 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. We've extended the time to really give a concrete answer to such a deep question. Not that it's a question is deep, but that it's pretty hard to sum up personal experiences about a whole complex movement. So my guess is if we dig deeper, if we were to ask some follow-up questions, we we could sort out some things, right? And I think we have a few more questions about BLM. And what I would say is this is where we'd normally ask a poll, but I think we could just move forward and kind of see where things end up.
Yeah, we do have some other questions, and if we want at the end, we could circle back. So let's move forward.
Cool. And the last thing I'll leave you with is on the fence is about a third, 29%. So a little less than a third of people say they're on the fence. And so when you have so many people who really aren't sure how they feel, and so many good opinions, you're going to start to get some complicated answers, right? Because they can be impacted by the previous question. All right. Should we ask? Thank you, everybody, for your answers. I'm going to look at these comments, but I'm going to fire off the next question. We've increased the time to 2.5 minutes now. So that's 2.5 minutes to ask the question, to answer, to read the question, answer it, and vote on other people's answers.
So the next question, where are you at emotionally with the 2020 election? So another open-ended, more feeling question. Again, we added an additional 30 seconds, so hopefully that helps with the delays. But again, this question, where are you at emotionally with the 2020 election? Which again, even me answering this question, and I know this is one we thought of, like, I'm not even sure what to put. I won't say anything to influence it. But. All right, and there is another. I won't shout out the times because I think the live stream's a little delayed. But there is a timer on the question. If you're doing this in real time, you can see the timer next to the question.
Yeah, the timer that you're seeing next to the question is the right timer. The timer that you're seeing up here could very well be delayed by any number of factors. So, also, there are a lot of good comments. So I hope when people are done, they also take time to see some of the thoughtful comments from. See comments from Rad Max, from Trumper for Yang, like the whole nother discussion.
Yeah, in the actual YouTube comments, yes, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of good answers. A lot of good answers. All right, a little longer on this one. Again, there's a little delay between the stream and the actual question, so make sure to keep track of the timer on the question to see how much time we have on that. So we have some answers coming in already?
Yep, we had the answers are what people wrote. The percentage agree, disagree, we'll keep updating as we finish here. So we'll just give it a second, and we are closed. Oh man, guys, all people. All right, let's just let's look at these first three answers here. I've given up hope for anything meaningful to happen due to Biden or Trump. So 73% agree. Independents significantly or more likely to agree with that sentiment than Democrats. Alternate between being anxious and somewhat hopeful. Interesting. Similar percentage agree in total, but now we've got independent voters. Well, I guess, 58% and 65% are not quite as giant a difference as one could say. Disappointed with Biden and feel Yang should have been the candidate. Biden can't answer questions succinctly and performs poorly. All right, let's play the game where we look at the least popular answers as well. And doom. Okay, well, so there you go. Feels like a million years till November.
I'll take credit for that one. Sorry, that was me.
All right, Seth. The least popular answer. Usually that's because that could mean a lot of things. But I know it means something very specific to you. Let's just take a quick look. Let's see really quickly if there's other things that stand out. What else do we see? Can't wait for Trump to be gone. 2/3 of people agree with that. I think that's interesting. I think I think that people would imagine that Yang supporters might have a different, more Yang supporters might feel that way. Tired. Democrats are not tired. Independents are tired. So more specifically, 65% of independents would agree they're tired, where only 42% of Democrats would agree they're tired. So that's an interesting thought there. Let's just look at the only race that's important is Mike versus Mitch. I assume that's Mitch McConnell, and that's interesting that independents feel so strongly that way. So what that would mean, just to put this in like actionable terms, if people who are watching are raising for like Democratic PACs or something like that, you would want to highlight the Mike versus Mitch thing. And a challenge or a way to think about this would be, if like Facebook's dynamic advertising is working, what you should see is more and more Mitch McConnell. Give us money, get Mitch McConnell out of office, because a lot of people here are independents. Social media will kind of recognize that based on what you're saying, and you will see more and more ads over time of getting Mitch out, because those will be what gets you to give money to a Democratic PAC or the DNC or something like that. But that's a tangent of sorts. All right, should we move on? You guys want to add anything in here?
Nope, I'm good on that one.
All right, cool. And we have the 2.5 minutes. All right. Here's an interesting one.
All right, let me pull that. Describe America in 2020 to an alien that just landed. Again, the new question, describe America in 2020 to an alien that just landed.
Dude, run.
Go to a different planet. No. Let me see. So again, we did extend the answer time for this, so hopefully everybody has enough time to answer these.
Yeah. And Warren, I saw that you say you've never saw that option to vote on. Everybody doesn't see all of the options to vote on. That wouldn't let the system scale to the max of about 1,000 people right now. So instead, what's happening is some statistical analysis of what you agreed on and what people who agreed on what you agreed on agreed on in relationship to all of the different questions. So you won't see all of these questions. And that's also why I'm careful not to say this is how many people voted on this specific answer, but rather why we say this is a percentage of people likely to agree. If you wanted to dive deeper into this, you would probably, if you were a stats person, you would say, well, what is the confidence level of each of these answers? And I would say we aim for 95% confidence, but I don't have that per question prediction. And the confidence level is the likelihood that we'll fall within that percent agree. Probably I said that right. Maybe I said that wrong. And if I said it wrong, correct.
It's all good. I mean, there's a lot of good answers here. I mean, the ones that it's showing me, but yeah, it makes sense that it, uses the AI to decide which questions show to which people. So
I think what's really interesting here is, and I guess it shouldn't be that surprising, but most people on this call are describing the world in 2020 in pretty negative terms. Yet, in some of the earlier questions, people didn't seem so people seemed more okay with the state of the world when we were asking about COVID, Black Lives Matter, Andrew dropping out, all of these things. There wasn't a huge, overwhelming feeling of angst. But then when we ask you to describe America or the world in 2020, it's chaos. So that, to me, is interesting. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's interesting.
Well, one of the answers I read was all the major events of the 20th century in 6 months. So maybe each of those individual ones maybe aren't crazy, but when you throw them all in the same short time period, Like that
There
answer.
you go. 2020 is basically the major events of the 20th century in 6 months. There we go. All right. Floating dumpster fire off a cliff. Dude run was popular. Go back home. It's not safe here. In crisis. You're right. These are all, we all hold many views. Polarized. Cool. Shall we move on?
Yeah, I'm interested to see some of these other answers with that context.
Well, here, let's look at see what's highlighted, what we've identified. Safe. So safety. Interesting. A floating dumpster fire. All right. So sorry, James, should I fire off the next question?
Please.
All right.
Was I muted when I just read the question?
Yeah, I think so, yes. And I was chuckling at Karen's comment, which is some of these are upvoted due to the wit. And that is the winner-take-all mentality you want here, is if you can write something that reaches people, they're more likely to vote on it. But that's actually how a lot of opinions are formed. But yeah, if you want to read the question out loud.
Sorry, I read it twice, and then I looked and my mute button was on, so my bad. If you can give the rest of YangGang one actionable suggestion, what would it be? Again, another open-ended question. If you can give the rest of the YangGang one actionable suggestion, what would it be? I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old at home, and they will randomly just blare out screaming for no reason. So I try to keep my mic on mute just in case.
Interesting. Have your best UBI as an inevitability argument. So a shameless Democracy.ai plug here is that there are people who are going to vote for Trump that also very much believe in UBI. And there are people who are not going to vote for Trump that very much believe in UBI. So if your position is that UBI is gonna be one of the most helpful things in the upcoming years for people to understand, that works across both political parties. It is favored based on the data we had more by Democrats, but I think a lot of that was that Yang was talking about it a lot during the debates. So, well, some during the debates, but a lot during the primaries. So, cool. It looks like we're done. What do we got here? Vote. Everybody's agreeing. Well, 22. That's interesting. Not everybody's agreeing. Green, independent. That's an interesting thing. But all right, vote. Top answers: vote, support, and back candidates at the local and state level. Get involved in the political process yourself. Run for a seat on county committee, and always live from a place of humanity first. Warms my heart. Do everything you can for 2024. Get as many YangGang in office as possible. So here's a really interesting thing. With this many people, I rarely see 100% agree on such a complicated thought. So independents, so there is both here are green, right? But independents are really interested in 2024. That's 22 people, all of them, everybody who's an independent said, get Yang people in office now, do everything you can for 2024. Still popular with Democrats, but significantly less popular, which is just an interesting thing. Focus on getting UBI caucus and those close to it elected in legislature and state office. Again, super high marks for independents. Really, really interesting. So another way of inverting this is if you're a Democrat, you might want to go back, look at this data, and see what's going to persuade independent voters to vote for your Democratic candidates. And so far, I would say the answer is that you're going to want to highlight how they talk about UBI, how they feel about UBI, and how they work with Yang. On the flip side, independents, if you want Democratic candidates to do what you want, explain to them that your vote hangs in the balance around a couple of key issues. That's my punditry. As we dive into this deeper, you could tear it apart. And if we do a couple more of these, James and Seth are going to be doing most of the talking once they get the flow down. I've just looked at these for a little while. So let's see what else we got. Let's see. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Closing tabs, and then we'll. And Seth, James, tell me when I should be quiet and we should move on.
No, you're good. The main thing with it is in real time, your screen is very, very small to us, so it's a lot easier for you to go through it because the screen I'm looking at where I can actually read is delayed like 20 seconds. So that's why I'm deferring to you right now mostly, and you break it down really well. So.
All right, cool. And you should also, though, both of you have access at the minister level.
That's right.
So you can look at your screen if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, have your best UBI is an inevitable argument, always ready to go. Independents agree, Democrats also agree, but to a less extent. I think this is all like interesting stuff. Learn and develop new strategies for organizing online. A lot of agreement there. Talk about. So here's an interesting. This is another note. Talk about Yang everywhere. Keep Yanging people. Independents agree. Democrats also agree, but less. So that's just another interesting point. Cool.
Really interesting. I would actually have guessed the opposite because Andrew has now very much identified himself with the Democratic Party. You'd think that the Democrats would be more in support of, continuing to push Andrew, but the math, the data says otherwise.
I mean, that does go back to, there's a ton of people in the YangGang that are from all different parties, not just Democrats. So, that's something we've been talking about, reaching out and doing more outreach to Republicans anyways, Republicans, independents, libertarians. But, the data says we should be doing that a lot more.
Yeah. And talking primarily about UBI, right? And that's something I have seen this in other conversations with more diverse groups. Universal basic income is going to be, so far it looks like based on the other data I've seen, UBI is the talking point, right? UBI first and then Yang might even be a way to think about it. So let me go back to the proper position. And should I send off our next question?
Yep.
All right, let's do this. Here we go. 2.5. Sorry, 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm going to change it to 2.5.
All right. Let's see. Next question. How can the YangGang Humanity First better stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter? Another open-ended question. All right, there is a new question up. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I did post in the chat about the new question. How can the YangGang / Humanity First better stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter? There is a timer on the question, so please keep that in mind while you're doing the follow-up questions too. Getting a little bit longer on this question. How can the YangGang / Humanity First better stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter? And again, it does seem like, I know you've mentioned this before, but the system itself actually filters out a lot of the spam answers. Not spam answers, just kind of, what was the word you used? Trolling answers.
So the actual cool thing here is, given a group where everyone's voice is heard, I know engineering and research teams have played around with like avoiding curses or bad answers. You can trigger a filter, but actually what humanity does is people don't like crappy answers, and
Right.
low quality answers are answers like being negative and simple answers, and so actually a systems thought here is, when everybody, we know diverse systems are better, right? We're about to answer this question about Black Lives Matter. The science we have says the more diverse a group of people, the better that they solve problems. And the more that everybody has a voice, the better the outcome. And so I think part of that is here, crappy answers are seen as like being a bad participant, and people don't like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So cool. And let's take a look at this.
Before you do, Noah, I just want to address Trumper for Yang's question here. As far as I know, this last question would allow you to give negative answers, and there were numerous negative answers, including the question being, how do we better stand in solidarity? The answer was don't. So that's certainly a negative answer. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, yeah, it's an open-ended question. So, I mean, you can answer however.
So not to put words in Trumper for Yang's mouth, but I think like I'm going to disagree, partially agree and partially disagree here. The question that we asked biases people towards the idea that we should stand in solidarity, right? So arguably a better question would be, we wanted to shorten the time that we're asking these questions. We should say, do you think we should stand in, how can the YangGang Humanity First, should the YangGang stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter? How could they better do it? That would be like the right answer. So what a right question. So Trumper for Yang, what you could do here, or what you would do here, is probably be annoyed that we asked a biased question, but then put in your strongest argument for why we shouldn't. And what I will say is, it looks like here is that somebody said don't, right? 8%, 40 people. So that might just be one or two people. Don't. These are the less popular answers. But what I will say is, burn down more precincts is only twice as popular as don't, which is an interesting thing to say, right? To see about this kind of stuff. So I hear you, and I think that we should probably, maybe something we could do at the end of this is also ask people to post on YouTube the type of questions they'd like to ask the next time. And we'll also, I believe one of our last questions is, what do you want to say to everyone? So stick around and think about what you want to say, Trumper for Yang. And thanks for participating. So Yang, let's just run through these. Listen and learn, protest and help where able. These are popular answers with broad consensus. Support on the ground if you can, digitally if you cannot. Popular answers. Raise money, participate in actions as YangGang. More popular with independents, less popular with Democrats, but still pretty popular. Let's see if we have any splits in, sometimes it's interesting. We can learn by exploring the differences here. By finding a way to offer UBI to victims of police brutality, give UBI to African. So here's an interesting thing. Give UBI to African Americans. Independents, 91%, Democrats, 75%. I'm not quite sure what this means, but my understanding is universal basic income would be universal. I know I've spent a lot of time explaining to people why rich people would get it too. But this is just interesting stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this data, it's going to take a while to process because there's a lot of interesting answers, a lot of interesting data points for sure.
Yeah. And what I will say is almost all of these answers are really thoughtful and well thought out. So I would say what this group should keep grouping, because if everybody's thinking and contributing, then you have a strong group. All right, here we go into the next one.
Okay, another open-ended question where you can write anything you want. Dennis, sorry, that's Trump referring. How would you describe the YangGang / Humanity First movement? So again, just how would you describe the YangGang / Humanity First movement is the next question. All right, again, the question we were working on, how would you describe the YangGang / Humanity First movement? All these questions are timed, so please keep in mind the timer on your screen for these questions as well as the follow-up questions. There's definitely some YangGang outsiders answering these questions, which is fine. But, I mean, you can tell by some of the answers, just consistent.
Yeah, let's build a segment. Let's do create a segment. Let's do. Should we do staff or volunteer? We'll do staff.
All right, the time for that one is up.
Cool. Great. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got here, guys. How would you describe the YangGang Humanity First movement? Focus on solutions. That seems like a suggestion, but also very popular and super popular with Democrats. Really interesting here. There's a lot of consensus with Democrats on encouraging passionate, smart, joyous, and fun. Oh, interesting. They're describing you, James, and you, Seth, encouraging, and I guess everybody who's participating. Oh, that's great. This is like question design. Interesting. In my mind, this was a question of like, what is the slogan? But I think people are answering it with what they like about everybody who's a part of it. That's fun. Cool. Sincere and inclusive change seekers who want the world to be better than it is. That's good wording. Wanting the world to be better than it is. A movement that places intrinsic value upon individuals solely for the fact that they are humans and not assigning value to individuals solely based on their ability to contribute to economic input. And you type that in 2.5 minutes. That's
that's impressive.
Smart people here. Cool. Agreed to. Politics of the future. There's a way to spin that into a slogan, team. A force to be reckoned with, period. Aw, all right, a little less popular answer, but maybe it's because it's in all caps. A breath of fresh air, necessary, new, and not going anywhere. Interesting. That's much more popular with independents and Democrats. Committed, respectful. So here I will point out, because we're with a pro-science crowd, some of these answers that have low agreement, these are just these like committed and respectful probably lost out in part because people viewed some of these other ways of saying committed and respectful better. So here here's where we have to go get off quantitative measurement and talk a little bit about from a qual perspective. Committed, respectful is maybe not as poetic or compelling as the best hope for the US and the Democratic Party. Interesting, by the way, Democrats are more likely to agree that it's the best hope for the US and the Democratic Party than independent voters. So, yeah. Gang says, thanks for reading it as I intended it. Haha. Good. All right.
Hi.
Cool. Should we keep going, or do you want to take a look through these and copy any of them down for your next email blast listening donation?
What were some of the worst ones?
Eclectic. Empathy high. I have not heard that term. See, so these are simpler answers. So those of you trying to game the system and win non-existent Democracy.ai points, use more words. Grassroots, but why? Yeah, and I know there's time issues, so I'm teasing a little. Let's look at the long here. It should be described as UB oriented. Sadly, the mission statement HFM put out last week for review did not have UBI in it.
I haven't seen that mission statement. Interesting.
All right. A bunch of newbies. Don't like that answer, team. We have a set of goals like humanity first, capitalism, but we are independent outside of said goals. Surreal, a place to call home, a breath of fresh air. What a nice community you all have built. I like the answers. Revolutionary thinking says simple answers are boring, I guess. I wouldn't say boring. I'd say they're less persuasive.
Right.
It would seem like. All right, let's keep going.
How many more do we have?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, here I'll put them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Seth, you're muted. So,
some of those, a couple of those are not real questions.
Oh yeah, it's less than 9. Sorry, let me work on my counting skills. Next question.
A couple of them are also just like, thank you, everybody. So last thoughts. I think we have like 5 real questions left.
Okay.
Should we put the pedal to the metal a little and try to get some data and then
we're in a rapid fire zone. So what we're going to do is fire off our questions and then talk about them as we fire them off. All right. If that's helpful. If that works for people, or here's a question for everybody on YouTube chat. You wish I was more quiet while you were trying to answer questions.
Fair.
Set up.
I'll just state the questions quieter. Should the YangGang / Humanity First movement take action independent of Andrew Yang? All right, a little more time left on that timer.
Interesting.
There you go. The answer is pretty overall yes. Yes. No is not a popular answer. Nothing too popular. Yeah.
And Nell is asking, what's the end goal with these questions? Again, this is just to get a temperature check of where the YangGang is, because there's a lot of, talk about where we should go and what we should be doing, and we don't have that data, so we're trying to get more data.
I think the real goal, is to collect the data and then put this data out for whoever wants to dig into it in hopes of creating a path forward for this movement.
Chomper for Yang, I know how to play the initial answer game now. Good. It's okay to treat this like a game. It ends up giving pretty good data that way, actually.
Let's keep moving.
Yeah. So the next question is up, which is what did you choose and why? And for those of you also looking at the screen, I segmented these between the previous question based on staff and volunteer versus other role in the campaign, and you can see it didn't matter so much with popular answers. Leslie, the next question is just an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper.
In this case, a lot of people gave the answer to this one and the previous one, but that's all right.
Yeah. No, I read the question wrong. But I mean, I would say, Seth and James, you guys did not know how people would answer this question, and so far, overwhelming support for the idea of this is something that Yang has started, but humanity first might be bigger than Yang, which seems cool.
And Michael, yes, we are going to make this data available. Again, this is something where we want people to have more data.
Cool. I'm going to fire off the next question. Revolutionary thinking. So you get a summary of the question answers. We have more tools here to see all of the answers on our end. The summary is limited so that people stay focused on the conversation, but you'll get the rest of the data later on.
These answers are interesting too, actually. So this next question, if we did take actions independent of Andrew Yang, what actions would you most support? Is the next question. Michael, where will it be available? It's not going to be instant. So I will, when we have it, I'll probably post a link to it in the description of this video. I'll also try to post it on my Twitter. So we'll make sure it's easily accessible.
Yeah, and if you guys want, I can post it on Democracy.ai, but maybe this is not really. This is better focused on. I don't really think that's the right place for it since we're very Yang focused. But
yeah, we'll get it up there. We'll get it posted. Last question should be multiple choice, in my opinion. Again, this is just figuring out what the multiple choice options are because we don't have a set of choices for people. So we wanted to get the actual opinion. So looks like we have about 10 seconds left on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think so what we can do now is digest these. A very, very good thing to do, I think, for the organization would be digest the most popular answers to this questions and use them as a poll for the next time we do this, and then segment people's willingness to participate based on that poll. So really quickly, let's just see what the general consensus was here. Pushing candidates who have humanity first policies, like I think Emily's list, and there's some other things like that push specific policies. Supporting UBI Congress candidates voting, preparing for 2024, supporting other candidates that support Yang's policies. So those are all top answers, and I'm going to fire off the next question just to keep things moving. All right.
Yep.
Ronald says that they're really liking the answers. I agree. These are super high. What's really clear here is everybody on the chat is invested in Yang policies and humanity forward being active. I mean, that's pretty clear. All right. All right, you guys are going to test the algorithm here with your UBIs. Let's see what happens. Let's see our semantic. So at the end of the 2 minutes, there should be semantic similarity reduction. I also know somewhere in these chats, I saw some interesting like NLP questions.
Sorry, I just saw one of them.
Somebody's talking above my pay grade, I believe.
There's a lot of the typical answers, but a lot of them are like they're not pro Biden at all, which is funny.
Human-centered capitalism, UBI, universal health care, ranked choice voting, gun reform is in there, marijuana legalization, fingerprint customization. I don't even know what that is. I mean, I could guess, but I feel like it's be embarrassing.
Gun safety.
Yeah, I think it's on guns.
Okay, the fingerprint trigger locky things. Yes. I will say, as those become more and more well known, they're going to make for some interesting fight sequences in movies.
Noah, since we're asking what Biden might be able to implement, can we segment this by people who are planning on voting for Biden versus people who are not planning on voting for Biden?
We can. Let me see how fast I can do that. Let's do that. Segments. Create segment.
Nathan, always late.
All right, cool. So I just made those two segments. So let's look at this really quickly. I'm going to change this. People who are voting for Biden versus people who are voting for other. So this is, so just the issue here is since we didn't make that an onboarding question, we have some limited participation. So our data is not going to be great because 41 people voted, but we only have 9 and 4 agreeing. 9 and 4 people who said who they're voting for. Maybe we need to do this by party. We had Democrat and Independent. We have that might be more helpful. I wish we would get serious about UBI, but I know he won't do that because of donors and other bad influences in the campaign. Half of Democrats, many of the independents. Let's see what's most popular with independents. At this point, any of them, UBI and ranked choice voting plus recreating the Office of Technology Assessment is a start, right? We got rid of that. Most popular answer from Democrats is UBI and human-centered capitalism. UBI, healthcare. I'm gonna make the point here to say UBI is a winner. Everything else is maybe a winner, but UBI is a winner based on the data we have. But I'm gonna fire off this next question.
So Noah, you can go ahead and fire that off. But when I was answering mine, at least 75% of them, what I saw was like, Biden's not going to do anything. Was I seeing that different than other people? Because
what was the exact verb? Do you remember more or less the exact verbiage of what that was?
I mean, one of them was "fuck Biden."
That's the one I left it to.
But there was like, I don't believe he's going to do anything. I wish he would, but I don't believe.
Yeah, so these are less fuck Biden, 38%. So there is agreement to fuck Biden. I mean, 1 out of every 5 people participating says fuck Biden. Independents, a little bit more likely than others. This is so I'm up on the screen are the negative answers. I don't think he'll implement any of them. So 50%. So this is here's your challenge, right? Is Democrats don't agree that he won't implement any of them. Nearly as half of independents think he won't implement all of them. Only a fifth of Democrats would agree with that statement. Ranked choice voting, a lot of Democrats think he might implement. So Democrats are more optimistic. What's happening here? Seth, is that Democrats are more optimistic that Biden will implement either ranked choice voting or UBI than independents. So if you wanted to convince Democrats to not vote for Biden, you first have to convince them that that he's not going to implement their policies, because right now they're voting for Biden in part because they think ranked choice voting or UBI is something he's going to make happen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Or make sense based on the data? Not a representative sample size of the American voters, but here we go. All right, cool. Let's just look really quickly at this. Describe why you would or would not support a pressure campaign. Not sure. Can we get Yang as a nominee and enough votes for him? Democrats are not going to agree with a lot of this stuff, I don't think. I would, because we need to start thinking bigger and not in a false binary term. Okay, so this might be the kind of question where language is playing a huge role. We need to start thinking bigger and not in false binary is popular with Democrats. The most popular is I would not. That is the consensus, in quotes, right now. We just need a good VP for when he dies in office. Okay. So huge difference between Democrats and independents here. No, because it wouldn't work. It's too late, wouldn't work. And if it did, Trump would win. On the flip side, a third to half. Let's look at this answer here. I would, because the two-party system is broken. So as far as I can tell, I'd really appreciate a choice that didn't intend to perpetuate the current system. I'm going to stop talking about this, but what I would say here is how you present the problem is going to really impact how people choose it. That's what I'm seeing really quickly. Let's keep going. Here we go. Next question's off.
All right. What is the most urgent thing for our movement to focus on right now? Yeah, I see some direct cash relief answers in here. That's something that was like really loud like a month ago, and then it's kind of died out. It's interesting.
We're all proud of James, Tom.
What?
We're proud of you.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tom, what's up? I think you live in Phelan, right? Yeah, my district's a little conservative. All right, so the timer on this is about 10 more seconds. And again, we're being quiet at someone's request to be more quiet.
Oh.
No.
Sorry, someone.
No. They're just saying during answer the questions. I think there might have been Just being facetious. What's up, Nell? Oh, you're in Corona. Tom's in Corona. I like Corona. The city, not the virus, but yeah. This is such a fascinating and helpful tool. Thanks you guys for doing this. So much potential for crowdsourcing solutions and consensus for groups. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for that super chat. Again, we really wanted to get people in here just to see this in action because like when I saw it at first, I was like, holy shit, you can get so much data from this versus just like sending out a survey or anything. So
yeah, and I'll just say, obviously thank everyone for being here. And this is super, super, super cool. But we have like 50 people. Imagine if we had 500 people doing this and it would be just as quick. That's the power of this technology. We could scale this up to 1,000 people and have this same conversation. So hopefully, if there's interest, we can do these more and get a much larger group that will be better representation of either America or of the YangGang or whatever. But thank you for all being here.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say my quick thing before we launch this next question, which is we've actually used this to have what I would call reverse town halls. And part of how this all started was we wanted Yang to use this to talk with everybody. But one of the ways to use this tool is to let the people ask politicians a question and then run a poll, see if their response is whether people felt like they answered the question, and then move on or not. So in my imagination, I had considered a town hall that could arguably only have one question, because we do this, we run a question and say, well, what are we going to ask politician X? They try to answer the question, and and then we run a poll, did they answer the question? If more than 2/3 of the people don't feel that they answered the question, we just have to keep re-asking it until they actually answer the question. And I think that would be interesting and a way to make politicians more accountable. But that's my vision for the future, or my version of a vision for the future.
I'll just jump in. There's a couple people talking about how to get bigger numbers and stuff in the comment here. I think that's awesome, and we'd love everyone's help. I don't know, James, we can figure out a way to let people participate in promoting the next one of these and deciding when it is. Whatever, we'll figure out a way to get everyone that wants to be involved.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, we wanted to get it out there to let people see what it is so that before the next one, we can say, hey, go to this link, check out the first one we had. This is kind of what it is. And then the second one. And then again, everybody here, if one of the final questions is, should we do this again? Based on those answers, if you want to do it again, we need everyone's help to get the numbers up.
Yep.
Actually, we just have a couple questions here left that are all about this topic. So let's just go ahead into them.
Fire off the question. Here we go. Next question's off.
All right. And just like we said, the next question, should we do more of these town halls? Why or why not?
Oh, Karen's still watching.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen. Karen taught me a lot of what I know I've learned from Karen. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Let's see, what else do we have? The source code is not. It is a for-profit enterprise. Although we've not this part of it. So you won't see the source code. But if you do a little sleuthing, you can find out more about the organization. So that's what I would say is the algorithm is always changing. The data analysis tools are always changing. And it's part of the mission to make this available for people trying to understand.
Yes, and again, the platform is Democracy.ai. You can find them at Democracy.ai is the website. Noah, is there any way to do a follow-up to this question of how often we should do these?
Yeah, do we want to do that as a poll?
Yeah,
let's do that.
Yeah, whatever you think.
Follow follow me. So everybody, if you're watching, this is like the back end here. So I'm going to go into discussion guide. I'm going to add an item. I'm going to add a poll. And how often should we do these?
I'd say like weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly.
Weekly, every 2 weeks.
Monthly, quarterly.
Every month.
And MP asks, where would the results be posted? Anyone? We'll probably, again, depending on how soon we can get it, probably post a link to the results in this description. Also post it to Twitter. I mean, we'll post it all over. So keep an eye on and we'll make sure you guys get it.
Well, I'm going to give everybody a minute, and I'm going to fire that off in just a second. I added one more option, which is nope. So how often should we do these? There you go. So you have a new question up.
And then I from the answers that it was giving me feedback for the previous question, I just assumed that the answers were positive.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, let's see what the least positive answer is. Would like set answers for some of them. So that's like more polls. That's fine as people get better at using a system. Yes, at 40%. So everybody answered yes except for X and fuck yeah. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
This is a fun question to look at because you can see the challenge of this stuff is when everybody kind of agrees, it looks like some answers are unpopular only because other answers are better written. Cool. The poll is done. People are feeling like every month is almost, is 50%. So seems like you're somewhere between every month and every 2 weeks. You could ask this question again next time and throw in every 3 weeks, maybe. But that's cool. So the next question is, if we do this again, what could we do to make these town halls better? And I'm going to send that in just a minute. We only have 2 more questions. So here we go.
Yeah, Nell said probably every month, maybe just a smaller amount of questions. It's all good.
Yeah, obviously, we've never done this before, so this was somewhat of an experiment, and we appreciate you all bearing with us. But yeah, we'll get better at it if we do it again.
I like that. If all YangGang channels live stream the next one at the same time, that would be great. So yeah, it seems like people, and I want to say too, well, I'm going to talk less right now.
No, you're good.
And Cindy, you're right.
Let people submit questions in advance. Interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't need to make up questions.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, if it's okay with you guys, can I add one more question, which is what questions should we ask next time?
Sure.
Yeah.
James, does the StreamYard comment stream get saved?
That's a good question. I think all of the individual comments get saved on their respective platforms, not within StreamYard. I don't think.
Most of them, I think, are on YouTube.
Yeah, they should be. There should be a live chat replay available. That'll go through all these.
Get the YouTubers to advertise the date.
Yeah, for sure.
So I won't do this because we're getting late, but yes, we could arguably, or you can leave in the comments what you think would be the most impactful way to advertise this to people is one way to use it. But cool, we're up to, we just did that. What can we do to make it better? Advance notice. I'm just going to look at this really quickly. 5 to 10 specific questions only. No topics ahead of time. Attendee. Yeah, so it seems like cool. I also think something else we've done, people can weigh in on, is we've also said, the first 10 questions are the important questions, and then let the conversation continue, but with it being less important. What question, I'm going to ask this, what questions should we ask next time? Now, this is typically the type of question where I think I have a great idea, and then I'm like, no, actually, everyone else had better ideas.
All right. So we'll give a couple more minutes on that one. Let me post in the chat. Have Yang promote on podcast? Yes. And we did an email blast. We did a lot of things. Again, I know everybody's all over the place with everything going on right now. So if we can get everybody that is listening to this help in promoting if and when we do the next one, that will go a long way.
Longer in advance, I think. Maybe even just in the next, like over the weekend, we'll pick the next date and a couple of weeks to be able to promote it.
Yep.
Cool, Michael, I like your suggestion. Maybe we need a bell. James, maybe we need one of your children to yell every time a new question is coming up.
That's very doable, but it's also random, so won't be accurate.
Cool.
What are some of the questions? Let me see.
Oh yeah, maybe we could get a down ballot candidate to participate in one of these.
I'm a former down ballot candidate. I lost though. No, there's a lot of candidates. I think Blair was on the stream earlier. She was just endorsed by Humanity Forward today, out of Tennessee.
Got 25 seconds left. Yeah, arguably candidates that Humanity Forward supports could use this platform to hone their messaging towards different types of voters. So what we do is ask a few more demographic questions, make sure that people who were represented or looked like those in their district were segmented, and then see what policies they responded to most positively.
Right.
And that would be like what you could base your advertisements or yard signs or features off of in part. So cool. These are great. Should the winners
beyond what policies, especially with the candidates that Humanity Forward has supported, more than that is how to talk about some of these things, right? Like we all support UBI, but the way you describe UBI to someone could be the difference between them getting on board and not. And obviously the way you talk about it with a Democrat versus a Republican versus an independent, etc.
Yes, and not only that, but we can figure out how to talk to different people need to be spoken to in different ways. I always felt like something Yang did really well is understand that there's different audiences that are going to understand. You need to talk about UBI at a different level to a YangGang supporter than somebody who has voted Republican their whole life. Like there's different reasons for it, and so understanding that and learning how to play with that could be really interesting. Our last question is up, everybody. Should I post it?
Good.
This is an open-ended one. As open-ended as it gets. Any last thought?
All right, got that. Yeah, there's a lot of if people want candidates on here too, I know a decent amount of them. Nell, the only thing with Jonathan Herzog, is I don't know. His primary is June 23rd, so I don't think we're doing one before then. I definitely should have him on just to talk anyways.
Ooh, I like this modern MMT. I think we're I think the Fed is putting the MSC. I don't know how to say her name. Malik. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. But yeah, MMT is certainly, I come from an economics background, and I'm really curious to see what people who don't agree with that are saying given our current situation. I'm going to just read out some of what people are posting because it normally is, it's going to be good vibes with this group. So the somewhat soothing sound of my voice. Love the potential of this platform and style. I really appreciated the focus on emotional response. Yang needs to reactivate his campaign ASAP and try to accomplish what he originally set out to do. Thank you. This is a great start. Thank you. This is a great start. Don't give up the future. Thank yous. It's grateful. I'm really grateful, Seth and James, for bringing me here, and I'm really thankful for all these really well thought out responses. That's just amazing. This is super cool and incredibly useful tool to aggregate answers. It can be one of our secret weapons for 2024. This would be a great tool for staffers to use as well. Awesome. I know the founders. I'm going to share some of these messages with them because you got to run a business, but this tool was built to bring people together. So if it's brought us all together a little bit tonight and helped us understand each other, then it's working. And I think that will warm some hearts in these dispersed, trying times. So, yeah. All right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so very much, Noah. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that's joined. We will crunch some data. We'll distribute that data, and we'll also look at getting another one on of these on the calendar. Hopefully, like at least 2 weeks in advance, so you can all help us promote it. It would be super awesome to get 500 people or more on one of these things, and then we get some really awesome data.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you again, Noah, for everything you did with that whole thing. You ran the whole thing. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me join. Thanks for letting me join. Thanks. I know there's some familiar faces here. Thanks for teaching me because I've learned since this campaign has started. And I'm really excited to see what you do with this and what to do next. And count me in. So have a great night.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, everyone. You guys stick with me. I'm going to end the broadcast, and then we'll still be here. Thanks, everybody, for joining.